Wow, it's
All right, today's topic is how do you maximize your Salesforce releases? And the topic is really not about winter release or spring release, but generally, how do you manage them 3 times a year? How do you get the most out of them? This is going to be covering both core and marketing cloud. Lori is going to come up in a little bit and join me and cover the marketing cloud pieces. And like I said, if you have any questions, please let me know. So first things, the recording will be available on our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Would greatly appreciate that. And the slides will be up on our Orlando Arctic group on Trailblazer. So if you're not a member of that, sign up and then you'll be able to get the slides as well. So they'll all be available online. So your speakers today, Marlene. I've been around for about 14 years, been doing Salesforce, sometimes well, sometimes not. But I've learned a lot along the way. Lori, do you want to share something about yourself?
Yeah, I've been around Salesforce a while too. I actually started downloading applications for Sales Cloud and Marketing Cloud at the same exact time, and then ever since.
Thank you, Lori. So our agenda, we're going to do just a really quick release overview of what it is. Then we'll talk about core, and then we'll finish with Marketing Cloud. So our releases. Everybody always asks, why are there only 3? There's a spring release in February, summer in June, and winter in October. There is no fall release. We all joke about why Mark Benioff does not like fall, but you'll get 3 releases a year. It includes everything except Marketing Cloud. And when I say everything, I'm going to talk about Service Cloud, Sales Cloud, all of your industry clouds, Commerce Cloud. I can't think of all the other ones, but basically everything but Marketing Cloud is in there. Marketing Cloud is also included in that now, right? For core, you're able to do a preview. You're also able to test it in a sandbox before you go live. And so that's one of the things that's really great about being on the core platform. You have sandboxes, use them well, test what's going to come out and see how it impacts you. I did not know this, but Lori shared this with me that starting in spring in 22, Marketing Cloud now follows the same release schedule, but there are no sandboxes. In Marketing Cloud, you find out when it's going to hit, and then it does. So that's what releases are about, and this is what we're talking about today, right? You get 3 of those every year. I also wanted to share with you guys, I added this a little bit later, so some of you guys that are online, you signed up before I added this question. What do you do to prepare for releases? And I thought it was really great. Some people are doing a lot, some people are doing nothing, and a lot of people fall in the middle. Also, something to keep in mind is maybe you were really good about the summer release because time allowed it, but winter release, it's the end of the year. You have other projects that are pushing up against it, vacations, PTO, and so maybe winter release didn't get as much love as the other ones. But what we looked at is, I love the what are releases, right? What releases? You don't even realize they come, they go. Fortunately, they don't affect you, but you don't realize it's 9%. Then you can see everybody else does a little bit of something. Maybe you activate new features, you're looking at release notes, you log in the day after to see what happens. And that could be either you did absolutely no prep, so you want to see what breaks, or you're excited to see a feature and you're logging into production to see how it works. I was surprised 12% are notifying users that the changes are coming. And that's a good practice, right? Letting people know it's coming and then maybe how it's going to impact them and what benefits you have that are new that you did not have before. Regression testing, I remember Tina mentioned this during our last session. They regression test, I think, once a week. So they definitely are going to catch that and test it. And of course, test any features that are automatically turned on, because for me, I usually focus on what's going to be turned on first that I can't control. And my users are going to be impacted. A few years ago, they changed the login screen. We needed to make sure the users knew the login screen was going to change and why, right? So that was pretty awesome. So this is all about us. This is respondents for about 45 people that signed up for today's session. So just want to share that with you guys. So let's talk about core. So we think about 3 releases a year, but if you think about it, it actually has a little bit more detail behind it. So right now we're in the active release. And we're going to go through each one of these. You can be doing some of the pre-testing. If you're able to do it now, you can do sandbox prep. Then very few of us worry about this phase, but there's a pre-release stage where you can sign up for a vanilla org. You can see what's in it. It does not have any of your configuration, but you can play with it. Then we have Sandbox Preview. That's what most of us focus on. We look to find any bugs, we regression test, we test new features, and usually that lasts about 4 weeks. Then we have multiple release weekends. A long time ago, there was one release weekend. It lasted, I don't remember how long, but it was fairly short, but that was your day, you went live, everybody got it. Now there's 3 weekends, so depending on where you are, you need to figure out where it is. And then of course, rinse and repeat. It happens 3 times a year, and this continues time after time. And depending on how much time you have, resources, your team, you might be able to do more of these steps. So talking about them. So right now, should you be worried about spring release? Yes. You want to be able to determine when you're going to be getting your changes. So depending on your org, it might be any number of dates. I have multiple orgs, so they fall under different schedules. So make sure you're looking at each one of your orgs. You want to identify for your current sandboxes, are they in preview or non-preview? And what that means is, if you're in non-preview, it means you're not going to see the changes. And so I have one particular sandbox that's about 2 years old. It's a non-preview. It will not see any changes. It was a topic of discussion today. And all of the other ones that are in preview will get it. But maybe you don't want a sandbox to get the preview because it's your regression testing, integration testing, staging, whatever purpose that sandbox has. You don't want it to get the preview. You want to know what's going to happen to it so you can take action, either refresh it before the due date or after. That way you know how it's going to impact you. And definitely the release updates get announced at least 2, if not 3 or 4 releases in advance. We've known what was going to be activated in January for at least a year. And I don't know how many of you guys have activated all those or not, but our org has not. And so it's something that we could be doing right now, activating those, testing them, and seeing how it impacts us, even before the actual release goes out there. Keep in mind, I like to not do those release updates too early, because sometimes Salesforce changes their mind. They delay them, they completely defer them. But it's about half of them stay on schedule. So keep that in mind, right? Look at them, see how they impact you, and know that maybe you activate it and it's going to go away anyway. So I have 3 tools for you. I have the Salesforce status site, a Heroku app, and an org release. So let's look at each one of those. And so how do you find out when you get your release? I do not work for Disney. I'm assuming that Disney has Salesforce and that they have their own domain. So let's find out. And so Disney is on NA 105. And when I go to the maintenance tab, I can see that they're getting their release February 4th. So it's not my org, it's not your org. And if you wanted to go see anybody else's Universal and somebody, you can go look it up, right? You're just guessing at what their domain name is. But here for you, you can see, am I January? Because there are some people getting the release in January, or more likely February 4th and February 11th. Those are the 2 more common dates. Then let's go to the Sandbox Heroku app. So this is, now that I know, well, this is for sandboxes. So you want to know when the sandbox is going to be refreshed. Again, I'm going to make up a sandbox node to see what's going to happen to it. And so whatever CS200 is, it's non-preview. So if I do nothing to it, come January, I'm not going to see the changes in that environment. And then you can go through your sandboxes. How many people have more than 10 sandboxes in the environment right now? 20? So you have a lot to look at. 35. 35 is a lot. And if they're all active, it's even more so. If some of them are just not being used, it's different. But either way, for all of your sandboxes, you can go through and see, what should I be doing? Should I refresh it before January 6th so I get the preview? Or should I wait until after January 6th so that I don't get the preview, because I want it to match production? Has anybody ever tried to deploy before something goes into production? Like you're an API too early? I have, right? Like flows, all the features they give you that are kind of cool. You can't deploy them until they're in production. So make sure that your sandboxes are aligned. And then the last one. Oops. I gave you this link directly to the release updates. How many people here are familiar with release updates? Okay. And so these are things that Salesforce wants you to do by this date. And so everything that you see here that's due by January 10th, is going to be auto-activated in this particular environment on the 10th. And at that point, I cannot turn it off. So if I can test it now, it means I can turn it on, test it, I broke something, I can turn it back off, and then just go back and forth. So particularly if you're in a full sandbox and you can test these things, make sure it's not breaking anything for you, that's the ideal case. And again, these to me are super high priority. Once they're turned on for you, you cannot turn them off, right? So let's say that they have an enhanced domain names change that's coming up, which is coming up in February. How are those enhanced domain names going to affect your API endpoints, your chat endpoints, your web to case? It shouldn't, but that's the whole point, right? We want to test and confirm, or maybe it does because you have some hard-coded URL somewhere. But that's the thing to go test. So here, just go to release updates on the quick find. And I gave you the link directly to it. It's going to go to your login to your org. If you use this link and lets you log into it, and you can see it.
How often do you check that?
I'm sorry?
How often do you go look at what the release updates are?
I like to do the one that's coming and the next one. So I'm looking at spring and summer right now. We are very, very busy right now with a few projects. So we're not spending as much time as we should on our release, but there's a couple that we have to do for spring, like the enhanced domain names, right? And I like to look at the summer one as well, because that gives me more runway to prioritize it, get the team to think about it, and again, toggle it on and off. But I wouldn't go beyond 2.
But I leave it on because I don't toggle it off because other people are developing and saying, well, maybe I didn't run into a problem. Just because somebody else is looking at it. So, so there's always the chance that, but again, if they make side active, enhance the way they push it out again. They're always pushing things back out, but I leave it on. I don't do it.
See, but the thing is I looked at the release updates in, I want to say July. Okay, and I saw what was coming up for winter. And I got that to my architect and all of that. I looked again in November. The list for winter went from 6 items to 12.
I would glance like once a week.
Once a week. Okay,
Yeah,
that's what I was asking.
just
How
glance
long,
at it
how
and-
often do you look at that and see the change?
So that's a good question. And for people that are online, you may not have heard that right. How often do you check your release updates? Kathy said once a week, because they do change up until the release gets announced with the release notes out of preview, because you get the release notes in preview, right? And they still change. You want to make sure you're checking them. But if you get started early and they add another 6 to you, you're ahead of the game versus, oh no, I had 6, now I have 12. So now let's talk about a pre-org release. Has anybody ever used a pre-org release? Nope. All right, these are pretty cool. They're basically trial environments that you can have to get the release before everybody else does. You get it about 2 to 3 weeks before the sandbox does. You do not get any release notes. So you get to go. Have you ever seen people that do the treasure hunts? You have blogs that they go do. This is what they're doing. They go into a pre-release org. They have a little more time than I have right now, because I can't imagine doing this in the next couple of months. But they go and they hunt for it. People that are really into flows, they want to know what's going on with it. They go and create really great articles about it. And you can choose the kind of pre-release org that you want to look at. You want to select a developer org. A developer org does not expire. So if you create one today, it's going to be in winter 23 release. Then you'll get the spring release sometime in the middle of December. And then it will stay as long as you log in every 90 days, because they do expire, right? They become inactive. As long as you keep it active, you'll get it and they'll be ready for you for the next one. Or you can just remember to sign up for a new one. It's kind of nice to just keep it. I have some of my favorite blogs up here. Salesforce Ben, I just picked one as an example, but they've got, I don't know, 5 or 10 different articles around winter 23, where they will do the treasure hunt and then they'll keep adding to it. They'll keep telling you what else they found, because they usually don't find everything the first day. Automation Champion is great as well. He usually does a couple of different blogs. He does both a quick summary and then different features. I cannot pronounce this. Asar Wall, sorry. His blogs are amazing. He is super detailed. He did a 30-slide deck for flow features, and he does 1 slide per feature. He explains to you exactly what it does. He has those kinds of guides for other features as well. I really like his blog. So I just thought I'd share these with you guys. Definitely for winter, they very consistently post them, but they also have other really great content. Does anybody have any other blogs that they like, that they use? LinkedIn? People post a ton there. I know I do. Yep. Stack Overflow. And Salesforce obviously does their own churn, right? But I like these guys. These guys, and they're so on top of it. The release comes out today. By the end of the day, they have the article because they want to get the views, right? So now we're in Sandbox Preview. We're in January 6th, and this is your chance to find anything like fields are no longer supported. Or maybe there was a change in order of execution because they've been doing that a lot the past couple of releases with workflow rules going away, process builders coming up soon. They're going to keep tweaking that order of execution. So you want to keep that in mind. Maybe they're retiring features, and they are really good about letting you know ahead of time. They email you if something is being retired and your org is using it. So you want to dig into that. And even though Salesforce runs all of their tests on their own, you still want to do that yourself, right? You want to make sure that you catch everything. Has anybody heard of the term hammer tests? Hammer tests? Yep. And so what Salesforce does is when they're going through a release cycle, they'll go through and they will test all of your Apex tests in their own environment before they do the release. They'll do that before they apply the changes. Then they'll do it once. They'll see if there's any major errors. And if there are, they know that their code broke something. They'll see if it's something they need to fix or your code is just maybe not great. And then they'll run it a second time, right? And they're doing the hammer tests. They're checking to see before they change something, was there an error? And then after they change it, did something really spike up and there's a whole bunch of errors? So your test code coverage is really important because that's what they're running. So if your tests are just kind of just doing the test lines and they're not doing much of anything, your code is not being tested by Salesforce. So you definitely want to test it just because you'll know your code best, right? Salesforce is doing this for every single customer against the release. And so they're looking at things that really bubble up to the top, major issues. They're going to miss anything small. And this is something that you definitely want to make sure you're doing. This will also let you gather any screenshots. So if you are announcing it to your stakeholders and you're sending emails about changes, you can get this from your sandbox. It'll have your configurations, your customization, and then you can get that information out of it. Another really great release tool is there's a group called Release Readiness Trailblazer Group. Anybody part of this? It's amazing. She does, it's run by one particular person. She's got a whole team behind her, but it's a great place to centralize everything that you're looking for. The key dates blog comes out pretty early and it's the first thing that get posted there. They'll always have the Sandbox Preview instructions there as to when to refresh or not refresh. The release this January is January 6th. If you start your Sandbox refresh January 5th and it does not complete, Salesforce cannot help you. You can beg, you can plead, you can harass, you can cajole. They let us know at least 4 weeks in advance, if not longer, that that's the hard date that you have to meet. And at that point, you've missed the window and you're not going to be able to get it. So definitely those key dates are really important. Also, the release matrix, which we're going to look in a little bit, is great. Brian's not here today, but I teased him because he said, can I teach him to read faster? And so I can't teach you to read faster, but I can help you go through release notes faster for sure. They also provide a release in the box, which is going to be videos, a deck, and then webinars. They want us to know what the features are. They want us to use them, right? So this group in particular for me is a great central location to go find everything. So let's look at the release matrix. This is the winter release matrix. It's got 695 lines on it. Did anybody go through the whole thing? I definitely did not go through the whole thing. And so it's very daunting to look at, I don't know, 600 pages of release notes. How am I going to get through this? It's 695 features. And so one of the shortcuts that I've done in the past, and it's worked really well, is I basically create a grid. I'm doing Excel, I'm doing VLOOKUP. I'm sure there's a much more sophisticated way to do this, but this is the way I find it to be faster. I create a key that has the product, the family, and the subproduct on it. Then I say, is it licensed or in use by my org? Who's the business owner? Should it be on the roadmap? And all I'm doing is I'm just creating a lookup table because that's going to update the other side and is going to tell me what to focus on. So once I have this, I have a VLOOKUP at the end of this. And so this is a fake one. This is not the Hertz one, by the way. And so with the different levers I can turn on and off on the other page, now, if I did use all the features that I have on right now, it says that I'm using 368 features. And so that helps me narrow it down. When I did this for my personal org, for Hertz org, it was about 150 things that I needed to pay attention to. And those are the things I care about. So first, what are my release updates? Second, what is automatically turned on for my users because I don't have any control over it? And then third, I can go through and figure out what the other ones are, right? And this is just a way to organize it. So now instead of reading almost 700 items, for me, I can focus on about 150. It's going to speed us up. It'll help me prioritize it. And I'll do the same thing for spring and moving forward. You don't have to do it before the release comes up. These release matrices are published and they're in that group that I shared with you. If you want to go back and do it for 2022, put it all together and see what did I miss that I should have turned on, put it in your backlog. It's a great way to do it. And again, this is a great way to just manage your time because we all have way too much to do. Brock is smiling and nodding. And so this is just a tip and hint. I'll post the matrix for you guys to just can see what I did with it. But again, it's just a tool. Anybody have anything else that they want to share or any other ways that you manage how you keep track of your releases?
Not reviews. We have an issue when we have disadvantaged domains. When we're testing that, we found it impacted one of the settings in our log, the tooling API. So we have to change that settings and then
good.
So that approach, it took a while to test all the integrated apps.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. So going back to our cycles, right? What do you need to keep in mind for what you're doing now? Do your release updates now. There's no reason to wait. Yes, they're important. The domain one in particular is very important. It will be auto-activated for you in February, but you can opt out. So even though the timeline has been extended, they're still activating it. You can just turn it back off for, I think, 2 more releases. Originally, it was going to be on in February, and then you were stuck with it. But now they've made that a little bit softer. But just keep in mind, February 4th or 11th, whenever your release window is, it will be activated. And so hopefully you can opt out ahead of time. If you opt out ahead of time, it will not be turned on for you.
There's a window there for the bookmarks. They're going to maintain the form of bookmarks for like a period of time. If people have bookmarks, it's going to be
You have to set that up. You have to enable the redirect. And I think it goes for a year plus 3 months.
It does have that redirect time period.
Yeah, you have to select it. And then it makes sense.
So
Where's the guide? There's a whole guide.
for you guys that are online, you have to set up the bookmark redirects if you do that for the enhanced domain names. So look at that, see how it applies to your org and see if you need to opt out or enable it and set up the redirects. Thank you for that, because I had not read that either. Tina, what's up?
And one thing that's first time on is installing on the state look at apparently so yeah, there's a big have to install. So even the managed packages have to be done and also this report that's on the state. I just want to say that's
And so that's for managed packages provided by Salesforce, right?
also attitude report, we have a direct event, all of them. So that's something else. Managed packages from attitude responsible to stay in alignment with Salesforce. We have unmanaged packages, or again, obviously the rules are you have to go get the link and install it. At Ascension, we're different. We talk about how we have multiple versions of the DevOps team, but actually will post, okay, these are the things we want to do at Ascension. And these confluence, the solution architects have to go in or the business practices are not really gonna have to. But it's different. We have so many teams, so we have our environment, but every architect is not planning on that. This is that very compliant. You can only have for this whole list.
those are really good points, Tina. And so for people online, I'll just repeat it because we're still working on our audio technical setup. And so what Tina brought up is if you have managed packages, some of them you need to install those yourself in the sandbox, like Omni Studio. I would look at other managed packages from Salesforce like CPQ. I don't know what CPQ does. I don't use it, but I know it's an interesting managed package. So I would see how that gets upgraded in your org. If you have unmanaged packages that you've installed, those will obviously not get upgraded. So you should do that as well. And then the last thing that Tina covered is her org, the way that they do the sandbox, it's distributed. And I forgot to mention that for the matrix where I had business owner, that's actually the reason I have a business owner. I'm assigning that item to that business owner to read about it and tell me if they want it. So maybe something new and they want it, great, let's add it to the backlog. Or it's something that we need to test, tell me what we need to test on it. So a release for me is not something that I own. It's something that I'm going to help shepherd how we're going to manage it, but I need people to help me do it. You can't do it by yourself, it's too much. Plus, if you do it by yourself, you're working on an island and that's not gonna probably get the work done anyway. But thank you, Tina, because we definitely wanna have the way that you manage the releases, try to make it as many people as possible involved because it'll be more successful. Thank you. Sandbox Preview, January 6th. So you saw that in the Heroku app. I got that from my Salesforce contact as well. It'll go into everybody's sandbox and we can start playing with it. And then our release weekends, like I said, the first one's January 15th, February 4th, and February 11th. You're most likely going to be either the 4th or the 11th. I never know who jumps into the very first release because I'm like, are they piloting something? Because they get very little time to test anything in their environment. So I don't know if they're different kind of clients that they get the release sooner or what happens. But if they get it on the 6th, they would only have a week to test things out. So, or maybe it's very, very small customers that don't have any customization so they can go into that window. I don't know. But either way, there's 3 release weekends coming up and they're not too far away. Marketing Cloud. Laura, you want to come up?
Okay, so I use the release notes as my guide. They have wonderful links here. The one that's the top one that says communications, you can sign up for what you want to get and to be on the email notifications. That is the second link is the actual release notes that look like yours. They're very lengthy and not fun to read, but ours are not nearly as bad as yours. And this is the overview page that will tell you each release in just a little snippet of it. The bottom link down there in the bottom right-hand side that says reference, that will take you to this landing page so you can get those links yourself. And yeah, as Marlene said, we now follow Salesforce, but not as the same days as yours. We have, ours is interesting. So we don't have sandboxes or anything. They tell us the date we're going to get it. We have release notes. And honestly, I forget about it. And you log in one day and you see new icons and fun things. Usually we're getting new stuff when they are going to deprecate stuff. They give you years notice. I mean, I don't know how long it took classic email content to go away, but it took forever. So they really give you heads up. So when things are going to go away, you have a lot of time to prepare and switch things over. New things are totally new. They're not going to usually affect what you've already got. It's a new feature that we're getting, and we don't get to play with it until it gets released. It is released, and then we have a webinar usually the following week where they go over the highlights, which is really nice. It is a week after we get it, so by then we've already played with it and had a lot of fun. But there is a link down here at the bottom, and I reference this a lot. We'll have like 6 little videos, and they're just like 2-minute videos that will go over it, and I use these to send to the business. Like, this is new, would you like to try it out? Instead of me having to do a presentation, I send them to that. And what it looks like is a little playlist like this. So that was the digital command center. And again, I've got references at the bottom that will take you directly to these 2-minute videos. And that's it, pretty simple for us. Any questions on Marketing Cloud?
How many people here have Marketing Cloud?
Wow.
parts of it. But not
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, that's a lot. Good. Okay, thank you.
Lori, has Marketing Cloud changes broken anything in your system?
Ha-
Turn things off even expected?
No, it hasn't. No, nothing has, lucky me. No, it hasn't. And when they did big things like changing the content where they turn things off, I was very gullible 10 years ago. And when they said they're deprecating some, I panicked and changed everything right away, only to find out it would take 2 years. So I was like one of the first ones done. But yeah, nothing has ever broke from a release. No, that's a good question.
Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, everybody online, do you guys have any questions or comments? Shelley, it's not fair that you're in your PJs, by the way. Everybody in the room can see the chat. Just so you guys know, I am sharing my screen. So I don't see any questions from anybody, but if anybody wants to come off mute, just feel free to do so. I am going to stop recording. I forgot where I did it.